We are ready to begin. So I will call the meeting to order and ask Amanda to please do the roll call.
Mr. Perkins? Here. Mr. Stevens? Here. Chairman Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Williams? Here. And Ms. Benson? Here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Kevin Stevens is going to do the invocation and the pledge for us today. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. We move now to adoption of agenda. Do I have any items that need to be added? Ms. Benson.
I would like to add Pensacola Beach storage tanks, water storage tanks, please, as, I guess,
Unfinished?
new business. Either one.
Unfinished? Okay.
Sure.
Pensacola Beach storage. Okay. And Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I'd like to add the septic to sewer.
12B. Inslee septic to sewer. And for 13A, I am going to add a master plan for the 2,000 acres at the CWRO. There are no further additions. Moved by Mr. Perkins, second by Ms. Benson. Please vote. And it passes 5-0. We move to item 4, public hearings. A, adoption of special resolution number SR 25-10, a final rate setting resolution establishing certain revised wastewater and water rates and charges. Mr. Woody.
This is the final reading for a special resolution to set wastewater and water rates for our FY26 year. Earlier this year, the CAC was presented the budget back in June, and part of the FY26 proposed budget included a proposed rate increase of 3% for water and wastewater services. That's been advertised for the last more than 30 days. Information has been added into wastewater billing, and it's been posted in public locations, including our own website. The implications for this 3% increase for an average residential customer of ECUA, the water rate would increase 99 cents per month. And for wastewater services, $1.17 per month. Again, this is for FY26, so it would start October 1st.
Sir? Mr. Williams.
Question is, on that 6,000, on an average 6,000 gallons, is that just water?
That consumption is based on consumption of water is billed based on your actual consumption. Wastewater for residential is based on that winter average that we do in the wintertime. Both of those rates are based on the average consumption from last year of 6,000 gallons. So some will be less, some will be more, depending on your family size.
But it includes both water and wastewater?
Yes, 3% for water and 3% for wastewater. And again, the implication, the result for 6,000 gallons per month of consumption would be an additional 99 cents for the water portion of the bill, an additional $1.17 for the wastewater portion of your bill.
So I'm not clear, I think, I'm questioning clearly. So for the average 6,000 gallons, we're talking about water, with a 3% increase. 1,000 gallons of wastewater with a 3% increase. On average?
Correct, on average,
Okay, thank you.
for a residential user.
I want to be clear, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woody. Mr. Smith?
Good afternoon. I did want to point out that on wastewater, your bill, your base charge on wastewater includes 2,000 gallons. So based on your winter average, you know, it is based on your water consumption. But if say your average was 6,000 gallons, 2,000 gallons is included in the base charge for wastewater. So on your consumption, the consumption amount is the 4,000 gallons on wastewater that billed for on the per gallon charge. So that was just the base charge on water. You know, the base rate does not include any consumption, but the wastewater base rate does include 2,000 gallons.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Perkins?
So these are just public hearings right now. We're not taking action until next month. So right now, we've advertised it and we're holding public hearings, and that's all this is right here.
One clarification, if I can. The preliminary rate setting resolution was last month. This is the final. So if approved by the board, these would be enacted for October 1st.
So will we be voting on these items today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it was under public hearing, so I didn't know if it's just a hearing or if we're actually voting on them. Thank you.
Ms. Benson, did you have a question? Okay. You want to vote on this and then go to the sanitation, or?
That'd be fine, probably
Okay.
so.
All right. So do I have a motion? It is moved by Mr. Perkins, second by Ms. Benson. Please vote. And it passes 5-0. We move now to item B, adoption of special resolution number SR 25-11, a final rate setting resolution established revising the sanitation service charges. Mr. Woody.
Similarly, on June 17th, the ECUA board approved the proposed FY26 proposed sanitation budget. CAC has reviewed that budget and also made recommendations for its consideration. The preliminary rate setting resolution provided the notice in public for the public hearing that we're having today, and proposes a 3% rate increase also for sanitation services. For a residential customer for sanitation services, that would be an increase of 77 cents per month.
Sir, do I have a motion? Moved by Ms. Benson, second by Mr. Stevens. Please vote. And it passes 5-0. I would just like to add thank you to the board, and I would like to commend staff and our CAC who spent their summer doing a series of 5 budget meetings. The public was invited. I think this is probably one of the best budget workshops and meetings that we've ever had, at least since I've been here, and I think it was very thorough. Every question was answered. There were a lot of questions. There were long meetings, and I really appreciate everyone doing their part in that. We move now to presentations. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. We move now to open forum. I have no pink slips. You know one here that wants to speak. So we will move to presentations. And I have the recycle star. Would you like to pull that, sir? Whoop. Number three is Perry and Pamela Nolan. And they will get a nice sign in their yard, and we thank Perry and Pamela Nolan for doing such a wonderful job on Recycle last month. We would also like to commend others who did just as well a job but did not get chosen this time, and that would be Samuel and Brenda Watson, David and Cheryl Reese, Frederick and Carrie Spivey, John Riggs and Neen Mendoza, James and Sylvia Burris, Richard Roerig, George Teratoya and Kathleen Orr, Thaddeus and Donna Nobles, and Taz Brell and Jasmine Wade. Thank you all so much for doing such a fabulous job on Recycle. We move now to approval of the minutes from the July 22nd, 2025 meeting. Do I have any corrections first? Not a motion by Mr. Stevens and seconded by Ms. Benson. Please vote. Got a circle? And it passes 5-0. We move now to the consent agenda, and I will read each item, have Mr. Woody speak to each item, and you will be able to hold any items that you like or vote on them as a consent order. Item A is adoption of General Resolution GR 25-105. That's a resolution awarding bid in the amount of $74,504.21 from Sessions Contractors Group for construction of the Avery Granular Active Carbon Foundation with funding from CW15 West Avery Granular Activated Carbon Treatment and providing an effective date. Mr. Woody.
ECUA continues to pursue the various projects we have for addressing PFAS in our groundwater. This particular project is for construction of foundations that will support new GAC filtration at our well at W in Avery. We received 5 bids for this. We were pretty pleased. They weren't terribly tightly grouped, but it was reasonably competitive for the lowest 2 bidders. Of those 5, 1 did have to get thrown out because they failed to sign an addendum, so they were non-responsive. But the low bidder is $74,504 by Sessions Contractor Group.
No lights. Move to item B, adoption of General Resolution GR 25-106, a general resolution authorizing Malden and Jenkins LLC of Bradenton, Florida, to perform the audit of the Emerald Coast Utility Authority financial statements for the year ending 2025, September 30th, 2025. Woody.
You may remember a few years ago, the state legislature made some changes that required all municipalities and public groups to go through a different type of auditor selection group process that caused us to create an auditor selection committee back in 2022. Members of that included board member Kevin Stevens as the chairperson. We also had Ms. Patty Sheldon, CPA, and Pastor Marcel Davis shared on that committee, and at that time recommended Malden and Jenkins as the top-ranked firm. That contract we entered into was a 5-year contract. So this is running the term 2023 through 2027. So we're beginning another year in that series of 5 years with Malden and Jenkins to do our annual financial statement audits for the ECUA.
Mr. Williams, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, how many federal or state audits are required?
We have one, possibly three, but tell that.
Mr. Smith, thank you.
Well, it depends, right? That's the famous answer. We'll certainly have one for the grant that we received for the Pensacola Beach Reclaimed Water Project. That is a state funded grant. We'll definitely have that one. We have several grants that we're actively working on for the septic to sewer projects in the Brownsville area. I think Navy Boulevard area, you know, all the ones that were approved by DEP. Those, although they come through the state, those are federal grants. And we just gotta have to see how much more money we spend between now and the end of the fiscal year. Right now, we're right at that we're close to the threshold. I think we'll have one on that series of grants, but then there's also another wrinkle to that. We received an additional grant, I believe, that the board approved last month or maybe 2 months ago. That was some supplemental funding on one of those septic to sewer projects. The only wrinkle is that one was not a federal grant. That one was a state funded grant. So it's got to look at the federal. There's different thresholds for the federal level and the state level, and they're different programs. So definitely have one. We may have up to 3, but it just depends on how much money it's based on how much we spend on the grant for the year. So next year we'll definitely have one federal and possibly another state. So it's all still kind of up in the air right now.
Like follow up, so every grant requires separate audit if it reaches the threshold of.
Yeah, they're grouped by type of grants. So there were 5 originally, and then it went down to 4 on the septic to sewer. Those are all from the same program. They're the same pot of money, so we can lump all those together. We don't have to look at them individually. They're all lumped together as one funding source within that federal grant. So they would all be combined into one single audit. They look at all of the invoices and the expenditures, and they make sure that you know, all the requirements of the grant with compliance and documentation, that good stuff. They look at all those together.
So is it Malden's and Jenkins' responsibility to determine audit?
Well, it's our responsibility as the grantee. So we're the ones that, you know, we provide all the documentation to them, and obviously if I sent it to them and I said, hey, we don't want a single audit, then that would not look good on. That'd probably be a career limiting opportunity for me, as it would come up as a big compliance point. But yeah, they audit the information that and they're the ones that sign off on the audit report of it.
Thank you, sir. Good questions. We move now to item C, adoption of General Resolution GR 25-107, a general resolution authorizing a portion of the retained easement over the former Hillary Street vacated right-of-way to be no longer useful, necessary, or profitable in the operation of the utility systems of the Emerald Coast Utilities Authority, approving and concurring in the findings of the executive director, and declaring a portion of the easement to be surplus and providing an effective date. Mr. Woody.
Every once in a while, we get requests to abandon or vacate or narrow easements for various different reasons. In this particular instance, if you look on page 58 of your agenda, there's a good illustration that shows what's going on in this particular instance. We have a developer who has bought a piece of property at 21 South I Street. The southern portion of that property contains a 30-foot easement that ECUA has retained after the city had vacated a portion of Hillary Street that used to be a right-of-way through that particular area. We have a 20-inch force main that runs through that area. They've asked to reduce the width of our easement on the north half of that section from 30 feet to 20 feet. Keep in mind, we still have another 30 feet south of that, so effectively, the net result is our easement shrinks from 60 feet to 50. So that's still plenty adequate space for the maintenance and care for the 20-inch force main we have through the area. So our recommendation is that we relinquish the 10 feet that's requested for the development.
I see no speakers. Oh, Mr. Williams, you have a question?
The question would be, so there,
No, they own the underlying fee. They own the property. We just have an easement interest on that property. So we're only relinquishing 10 feet of, we have a 30-foot easement on the property. He's asking us to pull back on that, only retain a 20-foot easement. So we're relinquishing 10-foot easement on his property. Again, he owns property. We just have an easement that allows us to have a presence on the property.
Thank you. The same way with streets or alleys or anything you vacate kind of goes to the person that owns property or adjoining property on this. Now, adoption of General Resolution GR 25-108, which is a general resolution authorizing acceptance of bid and awarding a contract, authorizing the executive director to execute a contract with Brown Construction of Northwest Florida for $6,174,161.20 for construction of a lift station, sanitary sewer collection system, a force main piping, and water main piping as part of CIP number CS0016, Brownsville Area Sewer Expansion, Dominicez Street Lift Station, and authorizing the transfer and use of funds. Mr. Wood.
We're excited that we're proceeding forth on yet another one of our Brownsville septic sewer projects. The $6.17 million price tag on this one includes the sanitary sewer work, which is about 5.5, almost 5.6 million of the total. An additional $640,000 will be spent by ECUA in those same corridors to replace water lines while we have the right-of-way disturbed. This project, when completed, will provide sewer service to 115 property owners in the area. We received 4 bids for the project. We're pretty excited about that. The competition is always appreciated. Page 64 of your packet shows the locations. It's roughly east of Dominguez, west of Kirk, a little north of Lloyd, and a little south of West Avery altogether. Probably bigger landmarks are it's on the north side of Mobile Highway, east of the railroad that comes there just before Mobile Highway turns into Cervantes. The overall project did have some deductive alternates in the bid just in case we received high bids. Fortunately, we didn't find the need to including any of those deductive alternates, so we're able to build the full scope of the project that we'd intended. Low bidder is Brown Construction. We've worked with them successfully in years past for their services.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
yeah, this is not directly in relation. This, I guess I want to know, how we come, how is that coming with those? Heard from
Mr. Hayden. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask, Williams, could you please repeat the question? It was hard to hear. It wasn't picking up your microphone, I don't think.
In reference to the Wisconsin News Journal article about the septic to sewer conversion program going on in Brownsville, they talked about the number of people who were converting. So I wanted to know what percentage of people are converting to converting to sewer from septic in that Brownsville area now?
The response that we received for the overall area was pretty low. Are we talking about this project specifically or one of our other Brownsville projects? I haven't seen the article you're referencing that's gone to News Journal.
Okay. Okay. Generally, is it still low across the phases of the Brownsville project?
So, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. Please.
Yes, sir. It's, overall, when we did the survey for the area, we only got about 20% of the people there wanting to participate. So what we did to get our percentage up to about 50% is we restructured the areas where we were going to provide sewer to those areas where we had a higher percentage of people wanting to connect to sewer. And that's reflective of the reduced area on the map on page 55 for this specific project. It would have been much larger, but just due to the number of folks that wanted to tie on, we're capturing the larger percentage of those that do, or that did signify they wanted to connect.
Okay, so in the area where we're working at, 50%, at least 50% of those will participate.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what they've indicated.
Okay. That's the question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Good question.
Thank you.
Ms. Benson, I think I'll let you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was a time when I think a sewer expansion ran about $5,000 per connection, and then it was 10, and then it was 40 lately. What is the cost to us per connection on this?
Madam Chair, may I
Yes, sir.
respond?
Please
So,
do.
the cost for this specific project, it has a lift station associated with it, which drives up the cost per connection. With 115 connections for this project, the cost per connection comes to about $48,000 per connection, which is very high. But with the grant funds, it's a 50-50 grant, so it brings our cost to about $24,000 per connection.
Yes, ma'am.
One follow-up question. When we do extension of our sewer lines to the northern part of the county as growth comes, what impact fee, what are those connections costing us, and what are impact fees on those connections?
I'll answer with what I know, and I may have to ask some help from Mr. Woody.
Okay.
So growth pays for growth in the northern part of our area where we don't have sewer and we're not participating, or ECUA isn't sponsoring a sewer expansion program. So the developers are on the hook 100% for those sewer expansion costs, or system extension costs, if you will. And then in addition to that, the impact fees are for a standard 5/8 meter, I believe, is $1,600 right now. So, but yes, ma'am, growth pays for growth. ECUA doesn't participate into that. Sometimes we will if if a developer has to extend our sewer to reach their development, we will do some cost sharing to stub out sewer service laterals to some homes, or stub out pipes for future connections. That's pretty minimal.
Just
Yes, ma'am.
One follow-up.
Please continue.
And I'm not sure we're privy to this, but when a developer is providing sewer extension to do a development, do you know what his cost is, his or her cost is per tap?
Yes, ma'am. So as part of our system extension process, they are required to submit a form identifying the total cost for water, and it separates for water and for sewer, so we do know those costs.
And
I think maybe the next question
what,
that I need to provide you is what is the cost per
Right.
connection, so that, I don't have those numbers handy, but I can certainly provide it very easily. With that in mind, though, maybe keep in the back of our minds that they're constructing on a wide open site,
Right.
not under roadways that there are right now.
Right.
Typically, the cost per foot is just a good ballpark number, is about $500 to $600 per foot for 8-inch gravity. So you can see a 100-foot wide lot, that falls about right, about $50,000 per connection.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perkins is next, and then I'll get you.
Well, when we talk about, 50% hookup, but the truth is that it will be a lot higher than that over time. We've seen through the data that more people hook up, and it's, when the septic tank fails and it's convenient for them, they hook up. Also, I think the health department has some coercive measures that when the property's sold and other things. So we see a lot higher than what we originally have. And the good thing about septic to sewer is they're paying us every month after that too. So it helps with our revenue. So I'm glad to see this project. It does seem expensive per hookup, but 115 units in an area where the septic tanks are failing and kids could be playing in sewage and stuff. I mean, it seems like it's one of our priority areas, where it's a threat to public health and safety. So I think it seems like a good project. I would like to say to Stacy, man, I appreciate all that you do. I know that a lot of times you're between a rock and a hard place with developers and the board and the public and all that. You have a really tough job, and you handle it with grace and dignity, so we appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Mr. Williams.
What's the cost of the lift station? Houses are required before we need a lift station. And how many houses are required before we need a lift station?
Madam Chair, may I
Yes, sir.
respond?
Please
So,
do.
I'll echo what Mr. Smith said earlier. It depends. So typically for development, the threshold is about 70-ish or so homes before we say, hey, you really need to use a lift station. The cost of a lift station is about $1 million, between $750,000 and $1 million these days. It's just costs have gotten so crazy. And I think you had a third question, sir, but I don't recall.
No, that really was it. I was trying to get the per connection number to what it might be about a lift station. Divided by
Permit me to try to do some math here on the fly. If we just say 5.5 million for sewer, deduct 1 million out for the lift station, you're left with 4.5 million divided by the 115 customers.
Okay,
And
thank you.
whatever.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy, and I echo my fellow board members in appreciation of all that you do.
Thank
you. We move now to item E, adoption of general resolution GR 25-109, a general resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a utility service agreement containing a cost participation provision in accordance with the resolution for the Chipotle Michigan Avenue project for sanitary sewer and authorize the transfer of funds in the amount of $176,461.86 from CIP project RS 0018 Lincoln Park FM replacement to a newly created CIP project number Chipotle Michigan Avenue Force Main. Mr. Woody.
On Michigan Avenue, about one block east of Mobile Highway, a new Chipotle fast food restaurant is going to be constructed. If you look on page 69 of your packet, there's an illustration showing where the restaurant is located and where the developer is going to have to install a proposed force main to reach the existing gravity sewer service that we have on Boulder Avenue. we've mentioned in past with other projects, periodically we'll have incidences where a developer is adding some infrastructure, and that presents opportunities for ECUA to invest with them and upsize or extend a piece of infrastructure to serve ECUA's larger interest, provide service to either people who are properties that are adjacent along the way, or perhaps to upsize a line so that other folks upstream extend that sewer and provide service in the future. In this particular instance, between the restaurant and the manhole over on Boulder Avenue, where they'll eventually connect, we pass 3 other private force mains that others have constructed in the public right-of-way that terminate in that very same manhole. So for convenience for ourselves as well as for our customers, what we're proposing is to upsize the larger force main being constructed by the restaurant and reconnecting our 3 other customers along the way to this new force main, and that way we can abandon some of the private work that's in the public right-of-way and shorten the amount of force main having to be maintained privately. So again, the developer still participates to the level they would have if they were doing this project by itself, to pay for the differential between that cost and what it costs additionally to upsize the force main, which in this particular case is a cost differential of $176,000.
Thank you, sir. See no questions, no lights on. Item F, adoption of general resolution GR 25-110, a general resolution authorizing the award of contract with Calgon Carbon Corporation for granular activated carbon supply and ancillary services and providing an effective date. Mr. Woody.
We periodically have to replace the granular activated carbon that's in our GAC filters, and this is a contract with Calgon that we have existing. They are interested in having their contract extended to the first 1-year extension at the same unit prices that we had in the previous contract, and we've had good services, and we're recommending that it be.
Thank you, sir. I see no, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I remember Calgon doing this last year. Is there a limit on the number of times that they transport?
Number of times of transport?
Or dispose of?
Yeah, this is a generic contract based on a unit price. So in a given year, we may only call on them to replace GAC at 1 well, or another year, we may call on them to do it for 3 or 4 wells, on the particular need. In the frequency with which a GAC filter is changed varies from well to well, depending on the volume that's pumped, depending on the amount of GAC, or excuse me, the amount of PFAS or other materials that might be there at the location. So this is a unit price contract that we reimburse them at the agreed upon prices depending on how much we use it in a given year.
Okay.
And because we renew it every year, if we feel that the market has changed and we might get a more competitive rate, then we'll put it back out on the market. If they're willing to continue at the same unit price, we feel that the prices haven't changed or have gone up and it would be advantageous, then we'll renew it back for another year.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That big general question about PFAS. Have we identified all of our wells have PFAS?
Yes. We've, for quite some time, have been reporting it to FDEP, and we know which ones already have filtration on them that are doing the job they're intended to do. We've identified the ones that either don't quite meet the regulation that'll be in place several years from now, or that are anticipated might not in the future, and therefore warrant being proactive and putting.
How many more wells?
May I defer to Tom to kind of speak to that? He asked a question in a little more detail, how many wells we have left. We have several under construction now.
Including those under
Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Tom Dawson. Right now, we have 13 wells that have GAC treatment that will remove PFAS. By the time it's said and done, 26 will have to have it.
out of 31?
Out of the 31 wells that we currently have permitted, now we have 28 that are active, but yeah, the 28. Depending on a couple that are just below the MCL, but could change.
Thank you, sir. Does that conclude your question?
That concludes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Dawson. We move to adoption of General Resolution GR 25-112, item G, a general resolution authorizing the purchase of one replacement container delivery truck for the commercial division of ECUA Sanitation Department to replace Unit 15A. It's a 2005 Ford 650 with over 300,000 miles, which has reached the end of its service life at a purchase price of $131,938.
When we have vehicles that reach the end of their service life, they have to obviously be replaced, as is in the title of this particular resolution. We have a 2005 Ford 650 with over 300,000 miles in it. It's finally given up the ghost, so it needs to be replaced. This is a vehicle in our sanitation division that we use to deliver 2, 4, 6, and 8 cubic yard trash containers to our commercial customers. So we have an opportunity through the Florida Sheriff's Association cooperative bid program to purchase a replacement vehicle. It includes the lift mechanism as well. We also have some insurance proceeds from a vehicle we lost fire from that same commercial division that we're going to use to purchase this particular piece of equipment.
So Bruce, I'd like you and Tommy to coordinate with Ford and see if we can get some co-op dollars for an advertisement for Built Ford Tough. Like 2005, 20 years old, over 300,000 miles, like a workhorse. Got to be, I mean, I see a commercial and advertisement somewhere in here. We can offset some of these rate increases that we're proposing. Yeah, that's incredible. And that's like a testimony to your department there as well, like keeping these trucks. I don't think, me having a little bit of experience with diesel repair, I don't think a lot of folks understand what it takes to keep these vehicles maintained and in well-running working condition. And it's
Those aren't highway miles either.
yeah, oh, exactly. That's, so anyway, so kudos to you and your staff as well, Tommy. But I mean, I wasn't halfway kidding, halfway joking about the Ford thing. Like, they ate this stuff up. So, thank you.
I think you should contact them. Mr. Williams.
Yeah, I have to first echo those. 20 years, 300,000, that's the way to do it. And so we're going to get a larger vehicle, larger engine. And my question would be, how many vehicles or trucks do we have like this to do this kind of commercial work?
Yes, sir. Please do.
Sir, in the commercial department side of them, there's only two of those style, which is called the CD truck, where they pick up the containers and take them and that. So we've only had two. So right now we only have one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And they come from the front?
It's on the back. I don't know if you've ever seen one. It's a regular F-750, and they pull up to like the dumpsters,
Yeah.
and they'll pick them up that way and switch them out and so forth, and deliver them, new ones, because we can't always keep them there. We got to bring them back in because they get rusty, especially at the beach, and we try to clean them up and spray them back down and and so forth. So we do clean them and bring them back.
Okay. Yeah, or at least contact Ford and say, we will continue this agreement as long as you continue to provide us trucks that last for 20 years at 300,000 miles.
That's right. All right.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. We move now to item H, adoption of General Resolution GR 25-117, a general resolution authorizing the executive director to provide a letter of support to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for a 50% grant funding match up to $125,000 for resilience planning grant and providing an effective date. Mr. Woody.
Our staff pays close attention to grant opportunities, and we have one presented to us recently for a statewide vulnerability assessment. Many grants require some work done before you're eligible to apply for certain types of grants. In the particular category of vulnerability assessment, there are some capital funds available to public entities to try to address those types of assessments, but you're not eligible to apply to them if you don't have vulnerability assessment completed. So we have proposing that we respond to a grant portal for grant applications for an adaptation plan to help deal with responding to some of these risks. Mainly related to storm surge, sea level rise, rainfall events like the historic one we had back in 2014. We have a few facilities that either because they're close to the coast or they're close to a big channel in a given watershed subject to flooding of various sorts. So, board's permission, we would like to apply for a grant application that would provide 50% support or applying again for a $125,000 distance planning grant.
No question. That concludes our consent agenda. Do I have anyone that would like to hold any of our? Not, do I have anyone that? By Mr. Perkins, second by Ms. Benson. Please vote. Passes 5-0. Now to the budget report, 5th, June 30th, interim financial statements, and the July 2025 year-to-date budget report.
Good afternoon again. This is, the first item is the interim financial statements as of June 30th. We do these every quarter. We have to do them for bond compliance, as providing relevant information to the board. This is a total picture. Every month we do the budget to actual. One shows kind of a complete picture of our financial situation as of June 30th, which is 75% of the fiscal year. The first page, or the second page of the report, the first one after the cover letter, shows entity overall. It's got water, wastewater, sanitation, MRF, everything, which is in uses. Kind of in a summary data, we are right where we expected to be. Water and wastewater, we're 68% of our revenue, which is a little under 5. We're still kind of ramping up as had a lot of water sales in June, again in July and August. On the sanitation and MRF side, we are slightly over our revenue projections there. And then you'll see in the other income and sources, just the types, the investment income impacts. You'll see the settlement funds there, that $4.9 million, that was that PFAS settlement that we brought to you last month. So as of June 30th, you know, because we got the money late in the year, there was no budget for it. We brought it to for approval, you know, accepting the funds and doing a budget. So on the final report, there'll be a budget amount that. And then just going through, it's got revenues and expenses for each fund. Like I said, we are in good shape, right where we expect to be on the revenue side, and we're slightly under budget on the expense side. And then we've got a balance sheet there, shows our cash position, accounts receivable, various liabilities, and thing is, you know, really right where we expect it all to be. Did anybody have any questions on that financial report?
Williams.
The recyclable commodity?
Yeah, the recyclable commodities, 130%. So we've already hit our budget, our annual budget that we had. If you remember, we had some uncertainty in the budget last year, so we did prepare a conservative budget. You know, with losing the city of Pensacola as a customer, which now we've got them back, and the commodities market, you know, we didn't want to over budget and be, you know, have the commodities market hit the tank. So things have been moving a little slower the last couple months on the commodity side. It's still up relative to where we've seen in the down years. You know, we're still above the bottom, but things are slowing down, and prices are coming down a little bit. But I mean, over the last 4 or 5 years of dealing with this, it's up. Can't predict it. So we've been blessed this year. We're ahead of schedule on the commodity side.
And secondly,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, again, that's one that we do a conservative budget on. Been saying for a year and a half now, rates are going to drop, rates are going to drop, rates are going to drop, the Fed's going to drop the rates. I think this time last year, projections from all the economists where we were going to see 4 rate decreases over the next year, and we haven't seen any. There was one small decrease. There's been a lot of stays. They are still projecting another decrease by the end of the year. So it's just the Fed rate has stayed pretty level. It hasn't dropped. Pretty good interest revenue on our investment.
Thank you, sir. Good questions. I did have a question, and it might be one for Bruce, just because you brought up the city. Is that, I saw an advertisement by the mayor talking about how good their contamination was. It was like almost 90%. No? Maybe it was 70, I don't know.
Yeah, when they were a prior customer of ours, following the same model that we currently have, actually ours is voluntary. Theirs was required. Actually, when they were a customer before, and their contamination rates were on par with ours. It was in the upper 40s. They have a completely different model now. Now it's a subscription-based service, so only the folks that are participating are those that are willing to pay for that service. So those who are participating now certainly are vested financially and otherwise in recycling. So what we're getting now is a very clean product.
Good.
If you look at residuals just based on the trash component, is now down to 8%.
Yeah,
If
okay.
you include,
I thought it was,
if you include glass, which
Really
doesn't
good,
bring in any commodity value, that number would still be only 16%.
nice. Very good. That was a smart move on the mayor's part, I believe. Thank you. You may continue.
All right, and then the next item on the report is the standard year-to-date budget to actual report. That is reported as of July 31st. The financial statements were June 30. Budget to actual is July 31st, which is 83% of the fiscal year. Water and wastewater, our operating expenses were at 72%, and on sanitation and MRF, it was 78% as of that time. So, we've got some items that are higher, that are up in the 80s and 90%, some that are a little lower. But overall, we should come in right around our targeted budget operating expenses.
Sir? Questions? We move now to item 10, which is the Executive Director's Report. Woody?
When Justin was talking just a moment ago, he mentioned that our first settlement check from 3M is accounted for in his most recent report. That was $4.9 million. On Monday of this week, we received a second settlement check, this time in the amount of $11,840,127 and change. That is the largest of all of the settlement checks we'll receive from 3M. Received checks over a period of 7 years. The first two, most of that is pretty front-loaded. We get almost 60% of it in the first two checks. And then the balance of that comes 1 year at a time over the next several years, and those checks will be million and a half, something like that, lower. Now, we still also have yet to be received checks from ECUA, smaller companies as well, obviously in much smaller amounts also. Second item I want to mention, an update to our Phase 6 Northeast Force Main Replacement Project. This is the last of 6 phases that we're doing in that corridor. It's a section of Force Main on Scenic Highway north of Olive, specifically Winding Lane, which is 1 block north of Olive, all the way up to Addison, which is the industrial complex. Altogether, all of the open cut sections are already done, and 1 of the 2 open directional bore sections of the line are done. So we're working on the last 1,600 feet. We've already completed the pilot bore. They're working now on reaming that area to get it up to full diameter. Anticipate probably pulling that pipe this weekend or first part of next week. We'll have to make final connections and do right-of-way restoration. So it'll be somewhere in the 2 to 3 week range before we're completely off of the highway.
Thank you, sir. No questions? Court?
Nothing from the attorneys, Madam Chair.
Move now to unfinished business 12A, Pensacola Beach Storage. Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to ask a few questions of or a question of Mr. Woody, and then I would like to make some comments and make a motion.
Yes,
I'd like to start. There are storage tanks, water storage tanks at the entrance to Pensacola Beach that have the dolphins on and so forth. What's the status? What's happening with those?
4 tanks at that location altogether. If you're coming across the bridge southbound, the first 2 tanks you see are steel tanks. One of them's 500,000 gallons in size. The other one's 1 million gallons in size. Those have steel pilasters around them. The next 2 tanks behind that, one of them is 3 million gallons. It's a concrete tank. Then there's another 2.5 million gallon concrete tank behind that for a total of 4. One that's furthest to the south, right now we're using for potable water. It was constructed early, but with the intention of that being the tank that we'll eventually be using for our reclaimed water system. As you know, we're making significant investments and using state grants as well to construct and build a reclaimed water system to use for irrigation water, Right now, for several years, we've been irrigating medians in one stretch, but we're extending that significantly. We'll eventually make it available to others as well. This off-season coming up this fall, winter, we've got a project that will extend water mains, reclaim water mains down from the main intersection, rest way down the corner to those tanks you just asked about. And if the get favorable bids, we may also do the booster pump as part of that. If they're unfavorable bids, that may have to follow to the next year. That most southern of those 4 tanks will eventually being used for potable water now, but it will be our reclaim together with a booster pump station that's being constructed.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to make a few comments, and I wrote down what I was going to say, because when something's important to me, I do that. So I apologize for reading, but bear with me. I've been thinking about something off and on for about 3 years, since November of 2022, when Dale and I were reelected again. In the staggered terms that ECUA has, he and I share the same election schedule. And Dale, I don't resent the fact at all that you gloated about being unopposed when I had an opponent. Not a problem. But that year, Dale announced that this would be his last term. Just to be clear, I made no such announcement. At the November swearing in, I thought about the length, breadth, and depth of Dale's service, and I knew it needed to be recognized. However, in our business, it's not easy to find an appropriate vehicle for naming, and I thought this should be a naming opportunity. The Dale Perkins Sewage Treatment Facility? Nah, I'm not sure that's an honor. Dale's Lift Station? That's not it. The DP Sewage Main? No, might break. Perkins Potable Water Tanks, Perkins Potties, Perkins Poop Factory. You know, I couldn't come up with anything that was good, but I think maybe we have stumbled onto something in these tanks at the gateway to the beach. But before I move forward with a motion, I'd like to look back a little bit. When were you first elected, Dale? 96?
Elected in 1994.
94, okay. So that would make you the longest serving member of the ECUA body, right? Yeah. And with term limits, I think you will have that title in perpetuity. And of course, longevity is good, but it's more about the quality of service. Dale will tell you that when he was first elected, he was a flamethrower. He wanted to shake things up, and truthfully, at that time in the history of the ECUA, it needed some shaking up. That was just after the era of cell phone gate, and if you don't know about that, you should know about cell phone gate. And after a board member was convicted of taking bribes for a trash cans contract and went to jail, not honorable was the name in front of board members, I'm afraid. But sometime between becoming a flamethrower and today, board member Perkins became a team player. A true fiscal conservative, he no longer was a guaranteed no vote on budget increases as he had been in the beginning. He was thoughtful, considered the merits of rate hikes, well, before usually voting no. But there were yes votes, as today is witness, when he knew it was best for the utility to do that. And that's always been his priority, the people we serve and the employees who provide that service. Dale was instrumental in what was the largest public works project in our county's history to date, replacing the Main Street plant, and we did it, as we have often bragged, ahead of schedule and under budget. Dale pushed for recycling when recycling was not hip. And then when the courts mandated flow control, he was a leader in adopting our recycling program and persevering when we faced one obstacle and one setback after another. A true environmentalist, he has been a staunch advocate for Carpenter's Creek. He supported aggressive sewer expansion, even though his district was rarely the beneficiary. Politically savvy, He loves the game of politics and is good at it. But he's a patriot, not a partisan hack. He can rise above party if the party is wrong. He's smart, really smart. I brag about being Phi Beta Kappa, and I think I'm smart, and I serve with smart people. But Dale has it all over us. He's book smart, and he's people smart. And I think that's the thing to know about him. Dale, above all, has always been a populist, doing the right thing for everyday people doing everyday things, just because it's the right thing to do. Like paving the way for a water fountain for runners and walkers on Pensacola. It's funny, in all the years of his service, I don't think Dale has ever served as board chair. Is that correct, Dale?
My very first meeting, I got elected board chair,
And
but only for a couple of weeks, and then I turned it over. And then 1 year when we transitioned from our executive director, Van Vanderver, I was the board chair.
okay, all right. But he has exercised his leadership from the side of the dais where he's frankly most effective. He probably consumed less airtime than any member of this or previous boards, but his words always counted for more. I can't remember a time when he spoke that afterwards I didn't think, damn, he's good. I wish I had said that. He's folksy, funny, and always kind. He never takes the credit, but he should. You know, Dale didn't like me much when I was first appointed, and you remember that. And he didn't hide it either. But over the years, he and I have developed a mutual respect and friendship. Oh, we don't always land on the same side of every vote, but we always respect the other's point of view. And I always think twice or more when I find myself disagreeing with Mr. Perkins. And so as he nears his final year of board service, I think it's time to bestow on him the credit that he never seized for himself. And I think we found the right vehicle. Mr. Chairman, I move that we name the storage tank facility and related infrastructure at the gateway to Pensacola Beach, the Dale Perkins Clean Water Depot, in recognition of his years of service to the people of Pensacola, its environment, and especially to his dedication of Pensacola Beach, which he has represented so well. Let the signage be large enough to greet those crossing onto our beautiful beach. And I ask that we find an appropriate time for a dedication ceremony so his Yankee kinfolks can come down and celebrate with us. And I hope I will find a second.
Second by Mr. Williams, only because he beat Kevin over here trying to get to his button. Thank you. What a wonderful statement. Do you have a question, Mr. Williams?
Sure, the facility's there. Yeah. And truthfully, I discussed this with Mr. Woody, and I said, you know, I want it to be on Pensacola Beach because that's the heart of his service. And I thought about the reclaimed water, and then the discussion led to this, and I love that it's at the gateway. So, yes, it's ready.
Not to mention that he's an avid sailor.
Right.
And when he's not doing this job, he's still exercising on waterways.
And he lived on the beach.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really touched. We try not to cry, but very, very kind of you. You know, I'm sick, but I'm not dead yet. You know, I mean, it's like, but I do appreciate it, and you know, as a board member, just always try to do the right thing, and it has been a long time. By the time, you know, if I live to the end of the term, I will have been on the board half my life. That's enough, you know. But I admire all of you and all of your service, and thanks for those Those wonderful words.
Thank you. Amen. Please vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Benson. Move now to item 12B, Inslee Septic to Sewer. Mr. Williams.
Back to the business at hand, and we previously, last week, we had a town hall meeting that went very well. I want to commend staff who was there and all of those who came out in support. But I didn't get any final numbers and know how much closer we are to where we need to be for that threshold so that we can proceed forward and know what the next steps are. Back on that.
Mr. Hayden, thank you.
We still need another 20 or so people to respond with yes. We only gained 3 last week from the church that were there at the church, but remain optimistic that the word will get out. We have several that have not responded to the survey, but remain at least a little bit more support for it, and takes out from there and where to go.
Can you tell me the steps after the signatures all rolling?
Yes, sir. So this is what we're going to do after we get the percentage of the survey. We'll distribute those that said yes to the program or no on a map, and then we'll do a preliminary layout of sewer for those that do want it. And obviously for those that indicated no, if there's a street where 80% said no, then we'll try to avoid that area to the extent that it makes sense. But we'll do a preliminary cost estimate. With that, then we'll try to go to our legislative delegation to see if we can get grant funds for it, and then kind of go from there. If we can get grant grant funds for it, that'd be great. And then if we don't get grant funds for it, that would be a decision for the board on how to move forward.
Houses are we projecting?
For the West Inslee area, I think it was about 225.
Mr. Hayden. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Stevens had a question.
No, I just wanted to reiterate again, and I've already, Mr. Williams, but I'm happy to go door knocking. I think I mentioned before, to go door knocking in the Inslee area, and I had a very heartfelt offer from Commissioner May at lunch today that he too would like to join in the door knocking and solicitation and educated on the septic sewer conversion in Inslee. So just saying, when we get the door knocking shoes on and start, knocking and talking to some folks, I'm happy to join into that as well, and as did he. And so again, we just need to coordinate it and find out. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate all the door knockers. Yeah. Ms. Benson.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. Okay, we move now to new business, and I had something on the new business. I'd love to see us sell properties when we no longer need them, and vacate easements when we no longer need them, and don't like to see us keep property-owned tax roll, off of the tax rolls and making money for the people that we serve. I know when we built the CWRF, we needed a lot of the property, 2,000 acres. I don't think that we needed quite that much, but I think over the time, we've realized now what we need and what we might not need. I know we need some for wells, some for spray fields, I assume a nice buffer, which makes for being a good neighbor as well as growth, but I doubt that we need that entire 2,000 acres. I'm not sure the cost to maintain it, besides the prescribed burns, but I'd like to know that cost. We may need to keep more of the property in hopes of an industry that would use reclaimed water. So, I can't make a motion, but I'd like to propose maybe someone could, that we did a master plan of that future needs for the property, and once we have that, then we further decisions. Sure if anybody would like to do that, or if they want to wait. That's well, there it goes. We moved by Mr. Stevens and second by Ms. Benson to do a master plan of our 2,000 acres. Do I have questions for Williams? Mr. Woody?
Originally, the thought was, they did quite a bit of investigation of the property to see what its absorption capacities are for spray fields. The design for the plant's over 22 million gallons per day. We needed to get rid of a large sum. While we came up with really good industrial partners, Florida Power and Light takes quite a bit of our effluent for reuse, as does International Paper. But the balance of that we send to spray fields. The original 2,000 acres was to build much larger, much more extensive spray fields, as well as provide buffer as well. While we haven't had to use that much, we will continue to be anxious about our two industrial partners. They could continue in perpetuity, or we could lose one or both of them at any point in time. Staff has been diligent in working on alternatives to make sure that we're as self-sufficient and independent as possible in case we ever lost one of those customers. And we do have a project in the southeast corner of that 2,000 acres that we have planned and proposed for the future. We also have 2 wells we've dug on the property, and we will have an ongoing interest to maintain what we need for those locations, as well as the well field around them, easements and areas that we have necessary to get that transmission distribution off our site back into our collection, back into our distribution system as well. Outside of that, the only other pressures or requests, we occasionally get requests from regarding the proposed project, the Bluffs area, but we've kind of held out to be sure that potential project that we might sell some property for, that would be an industrial user that could use some of our reclaimed water. Considerations are the funds with which we purchase the property, to be sure bond conflicts or things like that if any property were to be sold. And we get inquiries from time to time from developers along our perimeter that would love to pick up 5 or 10 acres here or there just to kind of round out a development that's happening near us. If we were to master plan the property, we would take a look at all the stakeholders, ourselves, plus others who might have a interest in that property. So that's not just us as property owners, but also economic development interests, developer interests, those sorts of things, gather that kind of input. board then could set some priorities. We look at zoning issues, buffer needs, first and foremost, our own needs for expansion and operational considerations. Then depending on how much time and effort you want to put into that, it could be a 5 or 10 year, or it could be a 20-year horizon master planning.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Benson?
I think Mr. Perkins was
Perkins?
ahead of me.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I think it's probably a good idea to take a look at all of that property and see what we think we might need in the future and what we might not need. I mean, I would proceed with caution on it because some of my concerns are, and you know, we talk about this 5-year plan we've been doing with these consultants and everything. To me, that thing has gotten way off track. I mean, it's focused on our mission and our values and all that. And for me, the 5-year plan was I think we should be looking at things that we need to focus on for the next 5 years, not all this other stuff. We've been focusing on that. And one of the things is effluent disposal. You know, they've got rules coming that effluent's not supposed to go in the sound. So out at the beach, that's going to be an issue. We're going to have to figure that out. We're losing some disposal capacity out at the CWRF. So we're going to I would be cautious with this land in case we need it. But if there's some that we can absolutely say, you know, this is not something we need, it would make sense for us economically and for the community to pair that off and see what can be done with it. But on a 5-year plan, I think we should be looking at things like technological challenges, AI, how we can best benefit our customers through allowing them to do a one-stop service through computer, PFAS and new water mandates, you know, the effluent disposal, of course. Infrastructure. Years ago, we did an infrastructure plan on all our sewer lines and everything to see, you know, what needed the most rapid attention. There's an inventory of all the sewer. I don't remember if we did water lines, but I know for sure we did sewer lines. I think CDM did it, and I guess over the years we focused on some of that, but just got away from it. But I don't ever want to see us in a situation like we have on Scenic Highway with this Skinner Mill Creek thing again. I want us to be ahead of the failures rather than behind the failures like that. So I think that would be a 5-year priority for me. And you know, trying to get away with this consent order. I'd like to see us focus on that. But those are the type of, and there's some other things, but those are the type of things, specific things that I think in a 5-year plan that we should be looking at, not at, you know, our mission statement and our philosophy and our core values and all that. That, to me, that's not really a 5-year plan. I know I'm a little off topic here, but that does make sense to me to do an inventory of the property and what we actually may need, but I would be super conservative with it and make sure we keep a little extra because we never know what's coming down the pipe, and we do have effluent disposal issues that we already know are going to be issues, and then we may have some we don't anticipate.
Thank you.
But I'll vote for it. I think it makes
Thank
sense.
you. Thank you, Ms. Benson.
Yeah, and I echo many of Mr. Perkins' concerns, but specifically on this master plan, I think we would be very short-sighted to think in terms of 5 years. I think it ought to be 20 years. There are some economic stakeholders who have expressed some interest in that property, and once we get rid of it, it's done. And so I want to maximize the potential for opportunity because it's that area with its waterways and highways and railways has huge economic potential, and I don't want to squander it. And I agree about the effluent disposal. I think back to when I was on the city council of the city of Pensacola. We were looking at the port of Pensacola, which was floundering at the time. And we had a group who came in who wanted to take over the port for a entertainment facility, much like Faneuil Hall in Boston. And it was very interesting. It had all the bells and whistles, and ultimately was derailed because of the Sunshine Law and Open Records Law because they didn't want to reveal their information, their data, because they would have to share it with other people who could then compete with it. But I look back, and had the city done that, we would have precluded what's happening now with America's Magic, which no one ever dreamed would happen, which may change us forever. So I think master planning is an excellent idea. I just want to make sure we look far enough and allow enough flexibility and are conservative in our approach. But I will support this with those caveats.
Thank you, Ms. Benson and Mr. Perkins. I agree. I think 20 years would be the minimum that we need to go because, when they said they were building a 100-year landfill, they're really going to be a 100-year landfill? I don't think so.
And I wasn't talking about a 5-year master plan for this. I was talking about the one that they're already doing, the 5-year plan that they're working on. I think that just got off track.
Yeah, no, I totally understood what you were doing. But, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that we've gotten way off base with that 5-year plan, and we need to spend more time on what we're actually planning and not our mission statements and what have you. But I do agree wholeheartedly with Ms. Benson that this plan that we're talking about right now should be at least 20 years, if not longer, because, who thought a 100-year landfill was going to last 100 years? Everybody, but I don't know that it will. And, and I'm sure if they had that for a redo, they'd probably make it longer. And I'd like to get a plan out there 25, 30 years, because I agree, reclaimed water is the thing that keeps me awake at night. With them Senate Bill 4 at that time, that just kind of raised all kind of awareness for me. So thank you very much for agreeing to this. We haven't voted yet, but I hope that you will support it, because I think, if you don't plan properly, then you don't properly. I think we should itemize every need that we're going to have and future needs for the property. Mr. Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is just a proposal to draft a master plan for uses of the 100 acres at the WRF.
Your motion. Okay.
Would that include potential operations that we could do as a body with that land also?
Yes. Everything.
Okay,
Everything.
great.
All of it.
Thank you.
I think leave it blank. Your motion. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Ms. Benson. Please vote. And it passes 5-0. Move now to board communication. Do I have anyone that has anything? I want to again thank Hamid and his team and IT for working on this public information portal for folks. These people are actually helping get our bills paid, and they do it all over the state of Florida. And other municipalities have have charged outrageous prices for the public information, upwards, I think one county now is like $140. And to me, that's ridiculous to charge for public information. So I thank you, Hamid. I thank Escambia County for also doing the same thing of helping us to give out public information for the people that are now pushed to pay for that, to get that information. So I really thank you. Municipal lien searches, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, they have to pay for this information to many of the municipalities. I don't know how that happened. Most counties aren't doing it, but some of the cities are just getting ridiculous with those costs, and they're passed on to the consumers. And so I appreciate you coming up with this wonderful portal, and I also thank our partners at Escambia County for working on this matter. We move now to our second open forum. no pink slips. I have no lights on, so we will motion for adjournment. Mr. Perkins, second by Mr. Stevens. Please vote. Fastest vote in the history of ECUA is adjournment votes. Passes 5-0.